Hey guys, Charles Barber here, and one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about today is going through adrenal fatigue and like what that all means. For me, it started years ago. I noticed myself at the end of the day just getting extremely tired. I also noticed that I liked caffeine in the morning, and I noticed that when I drank it, it obviously woke me up. It got me going in the morning. But then, like what they say, what goes up must come down. Well, it's so true. And for me, one thing that really held heart to me is that it really made me moody. It made my nervous system off. It made me like grumpy at the end of the day. But also, one thing I noticed, which is really weird, is that I felt like I actually kind of liked that morning jolt from the caffeine, like that kind of that high. And I was going through fight or flight. My adrenals were going through fight or flight. Well, about 6 or 7 years ago, I became aware of that this wasn't healthy for my body, and that I was actually perpetuating my issues by making them worse by just wiping out my adrenals more and more and more. And I sought out for years to figure out how to do it. And one of the things that really came up for us was a lot of these tonic herbs and stuff that we use, and how to like implement those into your life. But you have to get off the caffeine. Well, around 4 or 5 months ago, I was basically approached with a guy that is kind of like a herbal mentor to me, and he showed me some stuff that just blew me away. And it's something I'm going to talk about later. But at the end of the day, he showed me that you can restore your adrenals with certain tools, and there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just here, take this thing and go. You do have to learn how to not want that high per se, that jolt of energy, and learn to be more calm and clear-headed. And the reason why I say calm and clear-headed is when you get that jolt and you get that high in the morning, it might feel good, and it might feel like you're just going, and you might feel like you're getting a lot of stuff done. But what ends up happening is you're kind of scatterbrained, and you might think you're getting a lot of stuff done, and you very well might be, but are you getting those things done at your full potential with your full focus and your full clarity? Because for me, what I noticed was I was kind of making these kind of half-step decisions because I was such in a hurry to want to move on to the next thing that I couldn't really focus in the moment. So as my business grew, as my life became more complex, I noticed that the decisions that I had to make were surrounding around certain issues that were way more involved than ever before. And so I really started noticing the results just going down as far as like my cognizantness in the moment, and being able to actually make a better sound decision when I really had to use critical thinking. So one thing that I really want to kind of come to you guys with today is a solution that I found, and that there's these certain nutrients inside certain herbs, and we call them these missing food groups for a reason, because these are things you can take every day. But what we found is that these alkaloids and saponins that you can actually get from these certain types of herbs, they actually go in and completely kind of nurture the kidney energy. And when we talk about adrenals, we talk about kidneys, because when you look at where your adrenals are actually located, they're located like on the top of your kidneys. And also one thing that you want to really educate yourself on when you think about adrenals is your pituitary and your hypothalamus, and that whole axis. That's called adrenal pituitary hypothalamus axis. And all of those are interconnected. And what they can do is, when things are out of balance, is you start to feel like you're kind of everywhere, you're kind of dropping, or you're kind of in this high. Is you basically start feeling all these other hits, from dopamine to norepinephrine, adrenaline, like all these things start to kind of just take you to this kind of euphoria, if you will, but then they just start to drop you. But these certain alkaloids and saponins inside certain foods and herbs, they actually can help restore and bring balance. In Chinese medicine, they talk about yin and yang a lot. And for me, whenever I first got into health and well-being, I really got excited about a lot of the male enhancement things that were out there, things that were going to give me more energy, give me more stamina, but I didn't want caffeine. And so I was kind of on the right track there. But at the end of the day, I was actually making my condition not worse, but I wasn't making it better. I wasn't going to the root cause. And as I kept in that path of seeking more of these like powerful herbs that could help me give me more energy actually did make my condition worse. And so one thing that you really have to be aware of is that if you're fighting adrenal fatigue like I was, you really want to be soft and supple on your body. You really just need to calm down and slow down. So using tools like that I have found, like magnesium oil, has been very beneficial for me. Meditation has been very beneficial for me. Prayer, whatever you use to help kind of calm you down and focus you in the morning, get the clutter out of your mind. That has been the most powerful tool for me in conjunction with some of these herbs. But even at that, I found my body wasn't quite getting the nourishment that it needed. So I kept searching and kept searching and kept searching. And one thing that I really kind of love to kind of get into was the mindfulness, was the meditation. I did like it, but I didn't always have time to do it. And I found myself kind of not really able to utilize these tools on a consistent basis. And so I still kind of went back to the foods because I knew at the end of the day that it was going to be a combination of things that were really going to help me. And then once I was talking to my mentor buddy about some of these calming herbs, he was talking about the yin and the yang that I was mentioning earlier. He really told me that I need to focus on yin and which is nourishment. And I didn't really understand what that meant, but he was telling me that all the herbs I was taking, like maca and pine pollen, were very yang. And I already had yang energy. I already had fire energy to begin with. So I was putting fire on fire. And even though I wasn't taking stimulants, I was actually kind of making my condition worse because it was affecting my nervous system and my nerves, which affected my mood. And that was not cool, especially if you had to be around me and work with me. I was very aggressive, very snappy, very to the point, very unforgiving. And when I started to understand yin, I started to understand more of like this female element that I really didn't, I'll be honest, take 2 cents to think about. And I started seeing all these other herbs out there and mushrooms and things that really focused on that. They focused on that nourishment aspect of it. And that's where we created the product that I wanted to kind of show you guys today, which was Immortal. Immortal is a product that contains tons of what's called yin kidney herbs. They're nourishment herbs. So the idea is that the yang pulls from the yin. So when you're nurtured, your body can naturally produce the energy it needs. But if you're constantly trying to yang yourself out, if you will, or stimulate yourself or give yourself tons of energy through taking certain supplements or herbs or whatnot, you're actually wiping out your yin reserves. And so for every reaction, there's an opposite equal reaction, right? What goes up must come down. And so when you start to look at yin, you start to understand that, okay, this is actually going to give my body what it needs so that my body can produce the energy naturally. Because anytime we have to artificially produce energy in our body, it's a quick fix. It's a Band-Aid. It's not going to fix the root cause. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was just kind of getting by and moving through. But then as my life became more complex, it became even more difficult for me to make those decisions. So one thing that we decided to do is come out with this Immortal formula. Let me find it over here. And this formula is actually focused mainly on yin kidney herbs to help nurture the body. It has herbs in it known as prepared Romania, which is also NRM breakfast blend. But this is something that you can, obviously add to it as well, because sometimes you need more. And breakfast is something that is for our ability, just kind of like our foundation blend to kind of get us going. But some of us need more of some of the things in breakfast, including myself. We also used herbs like reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom's a great tonic for the lungs, but it also helps soften the central nervous system, helps boost the immune system, so it's going to help your mood kind of stay, not necessarily elevated, but calm and clear-headed. Really helps nurture the nervous system and just your overall sense of well-being. Some other things that are inside of there are blue purum. And blue purum is something that really helps the liver, and it helps calm the liver energy. So if any of you guys ever deal with anger, aggression, or you wear your emotions on your shoulders, Blue perm is something that is very powerful herb that can really help calm you down and kind of get that crazy energy kind of calm down, while at the same time kind of nurturing you and giving you nourishment. There's also a few other herbs like astragalus inside of here, and salvia root, and all these other herbs that are inside here. It's basically just, again, it's designed to help nurture the body. So as I started using this formula, I was really kind of blown away because of how I was feeling. I noticed that my head was more clear, I felt a little bit more clear-headed, and at the end of the day, I was just making more sound decisions. But what really blew me away is when one of my doctor friends was actually using it in his practice, and he was telling me there's nothing that he's ever found that can restore the adrenals like Immortal. And so we kind of made it initially I made it for myself just to try it out. And then I started kind of working with him on like helping his patients and whatnot, and actually developed the formula. It was actually developed for him. And then we actually brought it on to our product line, which is why we're just now launching it, because we've actually had this product for a long time, but we just now got a label for it. Any of you guys that are in the center, you know you've seen it with the white label on it. But we brought it on because of the results that our doctor friend was actually getting with his patients, and just how kind of intense he was on telling me, hey, this stuff is phenomenal for helping people's adrenals, and how he's not seeing anything do it. And this guy's, to me, he's like who I go see if I ever have something wrong with me. So he has like all the tools in the world, and he chooses Immortal because it's restoring people's adrenals. It's helping people be able to create their own natural energy by nurturing nourishment, that female energy that comes in and almost like a food, and just helps kind of bring in those certain alkaloids and saponins that allow the body to produce the yang, to produce the energy that you need in the day-to-day without having to create stimulant. So I'm super excited to launch this for you guys. It's called Immortal. The way that this guy is processed is pretty interesting. And so instead of us doing like an extract of the herb, we actually do what's called a tea. We just brew a big batch of this in a tea, but then we have our own process where we're able to not use alcohol and super concentrate this tea. So one dropper full would be like having 3 or 4 cups of tea. And the reason why I'm mentioning this whole tea concept is because that's how I feel like people should take it. It works great in your coffee, but you can also have it like just with some warm water and drop like 2 or 3 dropperfuls in some warm water, and then sip on that like some warm tea. And that would be, equivalent to you getting all 8 of these herbs out, brewing them all up, and then consuming them, which is just not practical for us. We have to have things easy and readily for us, but we don't want to sacrifice quality. This is Immortal. This is what it does to you. So again, you can add this to coffee. You can add this to in breakfast. It's great to add to in breakfast in the morning, but it's also great to add to coffee. I don't suggest you do it if you're in adrenal fight or flight, like you're in full adrenal fatigue. I suggest you do the coffee or do it within breakfast. But at the end of the day, if you use it as tea. Don't use it in your coffee. You could use it in tea or in breakfast, but at the end of the day, what you want to understand is that these herbs are nurturing your adrenals to allow your body to produce energy naturally, so that you don't feel dependent upon stimulants. And I know a lot of you guys get up super early and you feel like there's nothing that can wake you up in the morning, but I'm telling you, once you get your adrenals fixed and everything starts to get nurtured, you'll pop out of bed and you won't have to have the caffeine that you think you need to have in order to function for the day. So I hope this helps you guys. I hope you guys can kind of understand more about what we're doing here with this formula. This is an alcohol-free formula. It's an all-organic formula. The other thing that's really cool is all the herbs that we use in this. One thing, just period, is the herbs in China are really hard to get, even though there's a lot of good information about them. But one of the other reasons why we created this formula is because of the low quality that comes out of China. And we actually don't source anything from China. And we're getting all of our stuff now from Taiwan or from Thailand. And there's a few other places that we